Pat, let's get into this. DFS, we're going to give you 3 names over 9K that we like in tournaments, a name we like in cash, and a fade. I'm going to try to make this snappy. I'm going to fade a guy who, in the wind, is probably pretty good. Low ball hitter, a lot of upside, and I actually believe he's a good value. But I'm not going to play him, despite those things. I'm not playing Joaquin Niemann. He's 141st in this field in strokes gained around the green on Bermuda. I think this is one of those weeks where if you look at around the green play and you look at putting, they need to be off Bermuda because it is a different ball game, chipping and putting, or obviously we talked about putting, but chipping off of Bermuda is different too, especially here at Sea Island. He's 141st in chipping around the green. He's 120th in putting on Bermuda over the last 50 rounds. He's 88th in fairways gained over the last 24 rounds. And he played here last year, finished tied for 65th. Nothing great. And he's coming off of COVID. And I hate that he missed the Masters because of COVID. But I think, we've seen a little bit of a mixed bag when players come off of a COVID thing. Obviously, DJ just won. Well, I guess he played Houston, played pretty well. But we've seen other players struggle coming off of COVID. I'm going to fade Joaquin Niemann here. I think the cash play is, I think you go a couple different ways here, but I'm going Harris English. Now, his tournament history here, not that great, but he has a lot of Sea Island ties and University of Georgia boy. But I went back and looked, and coming into this golf tournament over the last few years, he has looked like a totally different player. As good as Harris English is playing right now, I just see better things for him this year at the RSM Classic, so much so that I think he's a lock in cash. Love him in tournaments as well, but he's a lock in cash. 4th at the U.S. Open most recently, 10th at the CJ Cup. Not a bad showing at the Zozo or the T28 either, but he's had a phenomenal season since the restart, checking a lot of boxes. Putts well on Bermuda, 97 for Harris English. I love it. In tournaments, I am going to go ahead and play Webb Simpson. No reason not to. Runner-up here last year to Tyler Duncan, lost in a playoff, finished 3rd the year before. What can you say about how good Webb's played as well? Another great finish at the Masters, a T10 at the Masters, T8 at the U.S. Open a few weeks back. Putts and chips on Bermuda like nobody's business. Hits ton of fairways and greens in regulation. Scores on par 4s. Love Webb here, and I'm going to play him at 11-2, no problemo. I'm going to eat a little bit of chalk here, too, and go with Russell Henley. Ball striking, Bermuda play, form, history is good. Now, he's missed the cut here the last 2 years, but again, if you go back and look at how he looked leading up to the RSM Classic, he's looking like the ball striker that would not come here and trunk slam. He's just playing so good. Now, the price is up there a little bit. 10-1 seems a little high for Russell Henley. I'm wondering if that will throw some people off, but I like him. I like him here. I like the way the ball striking is going right now. I'm going to continue to play the hot form Russell Henley. And then I'm going to drop down. My last tournament play is going to be Sebastian Munoz, who you talked about last week, finished 19th at the Masters. This guy's had another amazing, I feel like saying season since the restart because that's what it feels like. But he's just played so well. Finished 3rd here last year after missing the cut the first couple times. Checks the box in Bermuda scoring right, or Bermuda putting and chipping right now. Hits enough fairways. He's not super accurate, but he hits plenty of fairways. He's got a little bit of distance here too. But his iron play, 21st in strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. Greens and reg is good. And I love the value at 9K. So I'm going to go Sebastian Munoz. That's my 9K range.
All right, well, I'll start there then since you have him. I actually like him in cash, so I think I could play him in tournaments as well. But I think in cash, you're getting down to some good value there at 9,000. Finished 3rd here last year, so I like Sebastian Munoz there. My fade's actually Henley. I don't really like the price.
Yeah, the price does make me kind of go, ugh.
I don't like really the 2 missed cuts in a row, but I hear you. I think that is.
Yeah, I don't care about that as much.
His play going into the event. He's 87th in the field in strokes gained putting over his last 100 rounds on Bermuda. Everywhere else, though, he does check a lot of boxes. I mean, other than par 5 scoring, which you really can only look at par 5 scoring on Plantation, not necessarily the other course. I don't think it matters as much. But I still – so I wonder, like you, like where his ownership is going to be. But if I get a high-owned, which I think he might be, Henley, I think I want to fade that.
I mean, if I get like a 20 – if I get I think like an 18 to 20 or more – projected ownership on Henley and DFS at 10-1 is probably if you're going by the book, I think it's a fade. If that happens, I'll probably be with you. But I do like him. I mean, it'll be like it'll just be good where I'm playing the percentage here. Like, whereas like with Webb, I don't care what his ownership is. Like, I'm going to go ahead and play Webb. I also feel like maybe I'm a little butthurt from missing out on chalk DJ last week. That I'm like, I'm going to play the chalk even if they're chalk. If I love them, I'm playing them. But I definitely feel better about doing that with Webb than I do Russell.
Yeah, I mean, Webb was my other GPP play that I have. I like him a lot, and I like Sung J M too. I like literally the top two guys right there. Sung J at 11,000, Webb at 11,200. I'm okay with playing them both. I like them both in tournaments. So I will. Those are two of my favorite GPP plays. And then my other one is Shane Lowry at 9,200. Started off kind of like your Corey Connors and Rory and everybody else, with not a great week, but ended up, finishing okay. He was hang on, I don't know if paper does this to you or what, but I got like this cramp in my thigh here. Oh.
He finished 25th at the Masters.
Anyway, but is in pretty good form heading in, to this week. And, obviously has won an Open Championship, a course that's going to be known for wind and weather and all that kind of stuff. And, a similar type course. So I think Shane Lowry could be a good play down there at 9,200. So I like him. An excellent ball striker. He's not going to show up putting on Bermuda. So I get that. But, 6 in the field in greens and regulation, top 20 in approach, top 20 in ball striking. So I like Shane Lowry there at 9,200. So there you go. Webb, M, and Lowry are my GPP plays. Munoz is my cash play, and Henley will be my fade.
See, I don't know, man. Like, I don't think you have enough. You don't have enough Southern boys down there that like know this grainy Bermuda mess. You're going with Sung Jae, South Korea. You're going with Ireland, Shane Lowry. You're fading the Southern boy, Russell Henley. Like, I feel like you got to have – this is some grainy-ass Southern Bermuda, man. You know how it is. We play on this stuff. It is brutal.
No, I hear you. Those are the guys I like. I'm not necessarily – I don't care if they're from the South. But
all right, hit me with I started with the 9K range. You start with the 8K. 2 tournament plays, a cash play, and a fade.
All right, I'm going to do the 8K, and then I got to go get a beer because the paper and everything's going crazy in my system here, and I need to figure something out. All right, so I will start with near the bottom here. My cash play, actually I say near the bottom, it is on the bottom, and that is Zach Johnson at 8,000. I think, now he's not a Southern boy, but he's a local Sea Island guy.
Yeah.
A guy that we've seen play really well recently. Great ball striker. He's 4th in the field in approach. He's number 1 in the field in greens and regulation. Putts fairly well in Bermuda. I mean, he's not in the top 25% of the field, but he's up there. So I like Zach Johnson there at 8,000 as a cash play. I think he's pretty safe. I like Ian Poulter at 8,300. Another guy, and I'm bringing up another Euro, but he's another guy we've seen play really well on courses like this because he hasn't played here all that much. I think it was 4 years ago that he played here, and he finished T36 in 2017. But we've seen him do well on courses like Harbor Town, that kind of stuff. And so I think Poulter could be an interesting GPP play. I don't know if a whole lot of people will play him, but he finished. He had that injury scare going into the Masters. Still had a top 25 finish there. He was T12 at the CJ Cup. So I think Ian Poulter's interesting to me. I mean, he's not going to jump off the page at you stats-wise, but I don't care. I'll play him. And then my other GPP play, so you'll notice a lot of these guys are in the low 8,000 range, which I think you're going to have to go to especially if you're going to play guys like Webb and Sungjae, that I like them both. And that's Mackenzie Hughes, somebody that we've seen obviously win here before. Another, as far, great scrambler, good putter on Bermuda. He's in great recent form. You look at his last few events, he's finished, T7 in the Houston Open.
Recent form is
I don't want to say great, but he finished top 10 at the Houston Open. I think he's just going to be kind of one of those under the radar past champions here that nobody's even going to look at in this $8,000 range when you got guys like Justin Rose, Kokrak, who everybody was on, Connors. I mean, a lot of people can take I think those are great plays, especially Connors, but, I'm not just going to give you the names that we always talk about. So I think Mackenzie Hughes at 8,100 is interesting. My fade is going to be at the top here, Mr. Dylan Fratelli at 8,800. I think that, I could just see a letdown week for him. I could also see him being pretty high owned in this range. So I will fade Mr. Fratelli. There you go.
Well, my fade is also Mr. Fratelli. He is 116th in strokes gained putting on Bermuda over the last 50 rounds, 103rd in fairways gained over the last 24, 109th in approach play over the last 24. I think he comes off of a little bit of a letdown after his week at Augusta. The price increase probably based off the week in Augusta at 8,800. So I think I am with you there with Fratelli. Now, I guess in these top two tiers, I am going to eat some chalk. Maybe again, this is because I'm scared after what happened to me last week when I missed out on the chalk with DJ. So maybe this is just pure recency bias and fear from me. But in the top two tiers, there's so many good names. I think there's a lot of good names in the 7K and 6K that I really, really like this week. And I can easily pivot if a couple of them are a little higher owned than others in DFS. So I can play who I want to play in the 9K and 8K range, regardless of ownership. And then there's enough guys I like in the 7K and 6K that I can pivot. So, I mean, my cash play and one of my tournament plays is our boy Kiz, who I just don't pick all that often. So despite him being, a friend of ours and a friend of the podcast, a multi-time guest of the podcast, I don't play him a lot. I try to actually find reasons not to play Kiz, but I'm going to play Kiz here. Obviously, I love the history at the RSM Classic, former winner back in 2016. He's been a little boomer bust here, but I do love where the ball striking is right now. He's in the last 24 rounds. He's 8th in this field in strokes gained approach. He's scoring on par fours. Obviously, he's very familiar with this Bermuda, and I think he comes in good form. The Masters is not a spot for Kiz. I wish it was. It'd be great him being a local guy, but the Masters is never a spot for Kiz. Kiz has told us that he thinks. He's basically said, I can't. It would be damn near impossible for me to win the Masters. It's such a long golf course for him. So I don't put too much stock into his Masters finish right now, but he's had a decent restart, and I love the upside and the price for Kisner at 8,600. I mean, I would honestly rather have Kiz than a lot of people priced higher than him. I mean, here at Sea Island, I would rather have him definitely above anybody in the 8K range. I'd rather have him over Neiman. I'd rather have him over Lowry. I'd rather have him over Day. I'd probably rather have him over a Fitzpatrick. Maybe. Yeah. So I think he's a good play here, safe play here. And then I'm going to go with the other, what I think is going to be a chalky play in this range as well. And Brian Harman, little cockbite. I'm going to go with Brian Harman. Love the form. He's played great since the restart. He's been making cuts. He's been, making top 25s, top 30s, a few top 10 or, top 15s, if you will. Bermuda guy checks a lot of boxes in terms of accuracy there, fairways, stuff like that. 14th here last year, 32nd the year before that, 4th in 2018. He's confident. He's playing good. This is a good spot for Brian Harman. I like him at 8,500. So those are my two tournament plays.
I don't mind
Yeah.
it.
You good? You got your paper situation worked out?
Things are not happening well in the internal system, but we're getting through it.
Nice. Sweet. All right. Let's move here. Let's move quickly. 7K range, a fade, a cash play, 3 tournament plays. My fade is going to be Brendan Todd, who,
Can't
should
stand that
be.
guy.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I like Brendan Todd. But.
Yeah, love Brendan Todd as a guy. Good guy. Should be a good fit here. He is a good fit here. I don't love a lot of things. I don't love the price in the top part of the 7K range. I don't love the recent form. He's not checking a lot of boxes. Even the boxes that Brendan Todd is supposed to check, he's not really checking them at the moment. The spotty course history here and the approach play really over the last 24 rounds, not great. So I think I'm going to avoid Brendan Todd. A cash play for me, and I think also a safe tournament play if you want to pull the trigger on Denny McCarthy at 7,700, I think is for sure something to look at. He's gotten increasingly better here at Sea Island in his 3 attempts. Started with a missed cut his first time out, finished 8th last year. He's coming off a 4th place finish at the Bermuda, a 6th place finish at the Sanderson Farms, a bunch of made cuts since the restart. Checks the box in Bermuda. Checks the box in fairways, makes a lot of greens in regulation for Denny. He is the second best putter in this field in strokes gained putting on Bermuda over the last 50 rounds. That means a lot to me this week. So I think Denny is your safest play in terms of cash. I'm going to go with Denny. I will. You know what? I'm gonna jump down unofficially. I like Sam Burns as well. I think Sam Burns could be a chalky play, so I'm going to avoid him officially, but unofficially, I need to let people know I like him. I like Austin Cook. Winner here just a couple of years ago. Hits a lot of fairways, hits a lot of greens in regulation. We just saw him finish runner-up at the Shriners. Follow that up with a T24 in Houston on a course that probably didn't suit him all that well. His Bermuda stats not great, but he's familiar enough. He pulled it off here in 2018, I guess it was. And then he had a T11 in 2019. It was no fluke. 61st last year. I didn't love that, but I like Austin Cook with the form he's coming in with. I think he's a solid play. And then dropping down, I'm going to go with a ball striker and a horrible putter. And I've been riding him a lot in the offseason. And that's Emiliano Grillo making his tournament debut. But you look at that forecast, you look at those wind conditions, give me Emiliano Grillo, who just hits it in the center so much. Second in the field in strokes gained approach in the last 24, 5th in greens in regulation, checks a box in strokes gained par 4 scoring. Hasn't played here, but I mean, he's a terrible putter, period, like in all surfaces. But Bermuda's not his worst surface. Poa is actually his worst if you look historically. But actually, if you look over the last 50 rounds, he's actually gaining strokes with Bermuda. So I think Grillo at 7,200 gives you some upside that, in windy conditions, I really, really like Emiliano Grillo. And then I'm going to go with my boy, Henrik Norlander. Norlander, fellow Champions Retreat member. 5th here last year. Runner-up in 2017, very familiar with the Bermuda surfaces, great ball striker. Again, windy conditions. This could all change. Like maybe some of my total love and adoration for some of these guys may be lowered a little bit if the wind dies down and it's looking more like it could just be a scoring fest with Tyler Duncan saw last year at 19 under. But if the wind kicks up, I see this thing being more like a 14, 15 under. And you just got to hit these greens, and then the putts will fall. So I like Norlander there. So Norlander, Cook, and Grillo for me in tournaments. McCarthy and Cash. Todd is my fade.
All right, so I got a few different guys that I can throw in here, but I'll start with my fade, which is also Brendan Todd. I mean, he's just not in great. But okay. First off, it's personal with me for him. Just. If anybody was in the Nut Hut, there was a little bet made between me and David and Ben, and I thought that he would do better than Corey Connors, and he failed miserably. But I just don't like his play recently, and I'll be interested to see where his ownership is. But Brendan Todd is a fade for me there. I like Sam Burns. He was one of my GPP plays. I think ownership could be higher on him, but I'm still fine with that. I'll eat the chalk there. I mean, you look at his stats. I mean, he's number one in the field in ball striking, 11th in par 5 scoring, 4th in greens and regulation. He's 4th in putting on Bermuda over his last 100 rounds. So
I like it.
Everything about him looks really good, which is, so if he's chalk, that's fine. I still think you can play him. Above him, though, at 7,900, Taylor Gooch interests me a little bit. He's another guy coming in great recent form, has 2 top 5s in his last 3 events. Great around the greens. He doesn't necessarily, he's in the top half of the field putting on Bermuda. But I think Gooch could be an interesting, maybe a little bit lower owned play when he's sandwiched right there between a Zach Johnson, who we know has a lot of experience here, a CT Pan.
Gooch sandwich?
The Gooch sandwich, CT Pan's right beneath him, which everybody's going to want to love. Play CT Pan after last week.
I don't know. Are they? Ugh.
We'll see. He has a good finish, though. CT Pan's played well here. I think his 1 start. I think he was top 15 or something. No, he started 3 times. He has a T13, a T6, and a missed cut. So it's pretty good. So I like Taylor Gooch. I like Aaron Wise at 7,400, a guy that's sort of a forgotten man on tour. And I think that, if you look at his game, it is coming around. I mean, he's literally in the top 3rd in the field in ball striking, approach, scrambling, greens and regulation. He's 12th in the field. Doesn't putt historically that great on Bermuda, but he's been playing really well lately. I mean, you look at his finishes. He was, 11th at the Houston Open. He was 26th at the Bermuda. Can't even talk because of this paper at the Bermuda. So I think Aaron Wise is trending in a good direction. So I like him as a low-owned tournament play because nobody's going to play him. He's going to be super low-owned. And I like HV3 in cash at 7,400. I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention HV3. I think he's another guy that could have a fantastic week that I think is just, he finished 15th at the Houston Open. He can score like crazy. He's got to avoid some of the bigger numbers, but if I kind of run my model, which I don't really run specific models, but he literally is number 1 in the field when you look at everything outside of Bermuda putting. That's about the only thing that he's not going to check the box in, but everything else he's literally top 15 in the field. So I like Harold Varner III.
Yeah, I had him written down. I mean, as a possible name, he checks some boxes. He's not great on grainy Bermuda, but could that be overcome? Yes, I think it could. A couple names in here just to note that appeared in that Jones Cup that we talked about, which is an amateur event, as well as the SEC conference play and played well. You mentioned Sam Burns. We both like him. Jones Cup in 2017, he finished 8th in the Jones Cup. In 2017, he also finished 9th in the SEC individual results. You got Will Gordon, who we like to affectionately call Taco Supreme in the Nut Hut for various reasons. Will Gordon's played quite well here as well in the Jones Cup in 2018, finished 15th. In 2019, finished 3rd in the SEC individual. Matthew Naismith, a guy that we both kind of like. He's a South Carolina boy, Gamecock, grew up right around the street from us here in Aiken. He's played really well here at the Jones Cup a couple of years, as well as SEC play. So there's some good players here with local ties that have competed, maybe not on a PGA Tour level, but have plenty of familiarity with this golf course and may feel comfortable here and feel like this is a tournament that they get a spot in that they need to take advantage of with only this and one other event before everything kind of comes to a close and we move on to Hawaii. So if they want some FedEx Cup points, these young guns that have experience around Sea Island, this is kind of the week to make that happen.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure.
All right, well, hit me with your 6K plays. Let's move on.
All right, well, I'll start near the top again here, and that is Patton Kizzire at 6,800. I think he's a good play. Now, he is a local guy. He's a Sea Island Southern boy. He's made the cut the last 3 times he's played here. but he's been trending in the right direction also. I mean, you look at his past few events, he finished 11th at the Houston Open. He finished top 25 at the Shriners. So he's starting to kind of come around with a better game. We saw him, in the past when he's won on tour, it seems to be in the fall for some reason. I don't know why that is, but for him, he's played well in the fall.
Yeah.
So I like Kazire at 6,800.
Weaker fields.
Well, for sure. And this isn't necessarily a weaker field, but in this 6K range, there are a ton of guys. There's several kind of Corn Ferry Tour guys, and so are traditionally, Corn Ferry guys. But I think, Kazire can score. He's top 10 in the field and putting on Bermuda, so he's obviously used to that and comfortable with putting on Bermuda. So I like him. Another guy that I just think, I don't know why he just pops at certain times for me, but that's Richie Werenski. He putts well on Bermuda.
Yeah, I looked at that. He's a big-time Bermuda guy.
Yeah, I think he could be a guy that could be good this week at 6,700. And then, well, you go with yours. I got one more guy, but I'm going to wait for him. So you go.
All right, I got a few. I'm going to start with a not Southern guy up at the top, and that's James Hahn. I love me some James Hahn usually when he's in the field, but he's at $6,900. I mean, the form is so good out of him with 3 top 10s in his last 4 events. The Shriners, Corrales, and Safeway. Not a great Bermuda guy, but not one of the worst. But he hits a lot of fairways. He hits a lot of greens in regulation, and decent. He's got experience here. It's not great, but a miscut last year, 17th in 2015 was the last time he played. But I like the form coming in. That's what I really like about Hahn, and the upside. He's a PGA Tour winner. I like a guy at 6,900 like that, comes in with a lot of form and a lot of upside, hitting the ball well, striking it well. I like James Hahn. I don't even want to say this name because what's going to happen is I like Doug Gim, okay? F it. I like Doug Gim, who burned me at the Bermuda when you were all over him and I made fun of you, and he finished 14th, and I had egg on my face. But give me some Doug Gim this week. He will probably trunk slam like a punk.
Can I just say this while I'm eating my paper smoothie here?
Sure.
The only reason I only mentioned 2 and went to let you go was hoping that you were going to say Doug Gim.
Well, here you go. But he is definitely checking some boxes from the ball striking standpoint. Not as good on Bermuda, but ball striking is good. And 2 14th place finishes and a 23rd in his last 5 events shows me that Doug. God, I just hate his name. Maybe it's his name. Who names a guy born what is Doug Gim? Probably like 24, 25?
Yeah, he's not very old.
Who names a guy in the last 25 years Doug? Or Douglas? I don't even know. I think that's my hang up with him actually, is I hate his name. Well, he looks like an Aaron. He just needs to be like an Aaron. Aaron Gim. You know what I mean? If he were Aaron Gim, I'd probably play him a lot more. I can't take Doug. It's just very weird.
You're offending all the Dougs out there right now.
No offense if you're but no, I'm offending Dougs under the age of 25. Like if you're a 35-year-old Doug, I get it. A 25-year-old Doug, I don't understand that whatsoever. Now I'm going to drop down to the low 6K. Michael Gligic, my boy, Gligic. I've been on him a lot. He's played well in these weak field events. His recent form is solid. Checks the box in Bermuda. That's his best surface. He's a little bit longer, but checks a lot of boxes, greens and regulation. Iron plays good. 6,400. I think he's a good value. Your doppelganger, Hank Lebioda, has a great record here. 32nd and a 30th place finish in the last 2 years. He likes this place. He's also got where is it? Yeah, he's got a Jones Cup and he's got a Jones Cup record here. 3rd place in 2015 at the Amateur Jones Cup event, 19th in 2016. So he's familiar with this golf course. I like Hank Lebioda here, and he comes in, haven't had a decent finish. 16th at Bermuda, 21st at Corrales. Don't mind that whatsoever. Davis Thompson
Georgia boy.
is the number one amateur in the world, Georgia boy, coming in with his, I believe, second start at the RSM Classic, where he finished 23rd last year at this event. Very familiar with Sea Island. He is a total stud. Won first place this year in the Jones Cup at Sea Island. Won 15th in 2018 as a freaking really young kid. I like Davis Thompson. He's got some familiarity. $6,300, and I think he honestly gives you top 20 upside, which that's tough to beat. One other name that I think you need to pay attention to is a guy who's been on the podcast before, and a buddy of ours texted about him tonight, not to you, but to me. Joey Garber shot a 7 under today, I believe 63 in the Monday qualifier for this event. He lives here on Sea Island, practices here, plays here. Joey Garber, very familiar with Sea Island. He's not in the DraftKings field as of Monday night, but I think he will be added. So depending on his price, he had his PGA Tour card for a minute, lost it. He's been struggling here lately, but fires a 63 in the Monday queue, comes to a course he's familiar with. If he's like 64, 6,300 or below, I think he is an interesting play as well that offers a little bit of upside. Georgia boy, long hair. Well, went to University of Georgia from Michigan. An incredible head of hair on him, Mr. Joey Garber.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind that. Another guy I'll throw out there too, we've seen play, have some decent starts lately, is David Hearn at 6,600. He was T8 just a couple weeks ago at Bermuda. He did miss the cut at the Houston Open, but he's another guy that has great course history here. I mean, you look at it, he hasn't finished outside the top 30 in the last 5 years playing here, with 3 of those being in the top 20. So I think Hearn could be another just, interesting play here. He's gained 25 strokes on the field over the last 5 years in this tournament. So I'll throw him out there, and I'm also with you on Doug Gim. So there you go.
I can't believe it.
Old Doug. He's a good guy.